Lillian Monroe's story should have never ended like this, but like so many others, her voice was silenced. Too many victims are forgotten. Too many stories are buried. But you can help change that. Hit subscribe right now, not just for Lillian, but for every victim who never got justice. It's free, but it means everything. Now, let's begin. She was young, full of life, a woman with dreams so big she swore nothing would ever stand in her way. She believed in love, in fairy tales, in the kind of marriage that only exists in storybooks. And when she met him, she thought she had finally found her happy ending. He was a man of authority, a sheriff, someone the whole town respected, strong, confident, the kind of man who made promises and kept them. At least, that's what she thought. The day she said "I do," the world saw a picture-perfect couple, a breathtaking bride, a devoted husband, a love story straight out of a dream. But that dream turned into a nightmare faster than anyone could have imagined. Because just 24 hours after the wedding, she ran. She wanted out, desperate, terrified. She wanted nothing to do with the man she had just sworn to love forever. And before she could even explain why, before she could tell the world the truth, she was gone. What happened in those missing hours? What did she discover that was so horrifying, so disturbing, that it made her run for her life? And more importantly, who made sure she never lived to tell the truth? Tonight, we uncover the secrets they tried to bury, the shocking truth behind the wedding night that ended in blood, and the terrifying possibility that the killer is still out there. Her name was Lillian Monroe, 26 years old, bright, full of dreams, the kind of woman who believed in love the way a child believes in magic. She had spent her whole life waiting for the perfect man, the man who would hold her close, protect her, love her in a way that felt safe, unbreakable. She wanted what every girl dreams of, a fairy tale ending. And when she met him, she thought she had found it. Michael Reeves, the town sheriff, strong, confident, a leader. He walked into every room with a presence that made people stop and listen. His uniform was crisp, his words smooth. He didn't just talk, he made promises, and he made Lillian believe every single one of them. Their love story was a whirlwind, fast, passionate, the kind of romance people write novels about. He took her on long drives under the stars, brought her flowers for no reason, held her hand like he never wanted to let go. And when he proposed, it was perfect. A candlelit dinner, a diamond ring that sparkled like the future he promised her. And with tears in her eyes, she said yes, because how could she not? The wedding was beautiful. A lace gown, a church filled with loved ones, a groom standing at the altar with a smile so warm it melted away every fear. When she looked at him, she didn't see a man with secrets. She saw a protector, a provider, the love of her life. And as she said, "I do," she had no idea that she was sealing her fate. The wedding night should have been magical, a night of love, of closeness. But for Lillian, it was the moment everything changed, the moment she realized she had married a stranger. What she discovered that night was something so shocking, so horrifying, that it made her stomach turn. Her hands trembled, her heart pounded in her chest, and for the first time she looked into the eyes of the man she had just married and felt nothing but fear. By morning, she was done. No explanations, no second chances. She wanted out, and she wanted out fast. But divorcing a powerful man, walking away from someone who built his life on control, that was never going to be easy. If anything happens to me, don't believe what they say. For most brides, the wedding night is a moment of intimacy, passion, and love. For Lillian Monroe, it was the moment she realized she had made the biggest mistake of her life. She thought she knew the man she married, a strong, respected sheriff, a leader, a protector. But in that moment, she saw something that made her entire body go cold. Michael took off his belt, his shirt, moving slowly, deliberately. But when he removed the last piece of clothing, Lillian's stomach dropped. Her lips parted, but no words came out, because what she was looking at wasn't normal. "What's wrong, baby? You scared?" Her heart pounded as she took a step back. She wanted to scream, but she didn't. She couldn't. By sunrise, Lillian knew she had no choice. She had to leave. The marriage was over. Whatever she had seen the night before, whatever dark secret Michael Reeves was hiding, she wanted nothing to do with it. Text from Lillian. I'm leaving. Something's wrong with him. I can't explain now, but I need to get out before it's too late. Lillian, what are you talking about? What happened? I can't say it. Just know. I'm scared. And if something happens to me, don't believe what they say. He came looking for her. She wasn't just his wife. She was his property. And in his world, no one humiliates him and gets away with it. Baby, please, let's talk about this. Don't do something you'll regret. Open this goddamn door, Lillian. That was the moment she realized. He wasn't just trying to talk. He was trying to trap her. Text message. You made a mistake. You don't know what you're doing. You should be careful, Lillian. Accidents happen. She told herself it was paranoia, that maybe she was imagining things. But then, the break-in happened. She came home to find her apartment unlocked. Inside, nothing was stolen. No money, no jewelry, just her personal belongings. Moved, rearranged, like someone had been inside, watching, waiting. Someone was playing with her, toying with her fear, and deep down, she knew exactly who it was. If anything happens to me, look at him. I think he's watching me. Lillian, what are you saying? Have you called the police? He is the police. That was the last time her friend ever saw her alive. The night before she died, Lillian Monroe was seen for the last time. Witnesses say she was different, jumpy, nervous, like she was running out of time. She was meeting someone that night, but who? It was a cold and silent night when the call came in. A body had been found, a young woman, barefoot, soaking wet, face down in a pool of blood. Lillian Monroe was no longer just missing, she was dead. The scene was one of pure horror. Her body told the story of her final moments. Bruises covered her arms and legs, evidence of a struggle. Her hands, they were broken. She had fought back with everything she had. But what stood out most was her throat. She had been strangled, not with hands, but with a leather belt. A belt that still bore the initials of Sheriff Michael Reeves. This wasn't just a murder. It was personal, rage-filled, calculated, and whoever did it wanted to send a message. But Sheriff Reeves was calm, too calm. When questioned about his wife's death, he had an alibi. He claimed he was home alone watching TV. His voice never wavered, his expression never cracked. But the detectives weren't convinced. His answers were too perfect, too rehearsed. And then his phone records came to light. At the exact time of Lillian's murder, his phone pinged off a cell tower near the crime scene. The calm, collected sheriff suddenly found himself under the spotlight. His perfect image was beginning to crumble. Lillian had confided in someone before her death. She told them she was scared. She told them she had uncovered something, a secret so dark, it made her run from her own husband. But now, that person, the last person Lillian trusted, is missing. Then came the autopsy report. The cause of death was clear, asphyxiation. But there was something else. Her body showed signs of prolonged distress, bruises, scratches, and marks that suggested she had been living in fear for days before she died. Lillian Monroe knew her death was coming, and yet no one could stop it. This wasn't just a crime. It was a statement, a punishment, and the man who claimed to love her was now at the center of it all. A week had passed since Lillian Monroe's murder. The town was shaken, her family shattered, but just when it seemed like the case was closing in on Sheriff Michael Reeves, a new voice emerged, a witness, someone who had seen something that would change everything. The man walked into the police station, hands trembling, voice unsteady. He didn't want to be there. He didn't want to speak, but what he knew was too heavy to carry alone. "I heard her," he whispered. "I heard her last words before she died." Hey. A silence fell over the room. The detectives leaned in, their pens frozen over their notepads. The witness swallowed hard and continued. "She was crying, begging. She kept saying, 'Please, you don't have to do this.' She called his name. She called for him to stop, and then I heard her say, 'I won't tell anyone. I swear, I won't tell.' And then, Nothing. Just silence. A cold chill ran through the room. Lillian's last words were a plea for her life. She knew her killer. She wasn't just murdered, she was silenced. But then, another shock. The sheriff, once so calm, so untouchable, was arrested, his badge ripped from his chest, his hands locked in cuffs. The man who was supposed to protect and serve was now the prime suspect in his own wife's murder. But just when it seemed like justice was within reach, something happened, something no one saw coming. His lawyer stood before the judge, cool, confident, and with one sentence, he shattered everything the prosecution had built. "My client," he said, "did not act alone. There was someone else, someone helping him, someone making sure the truth would never come out." The room fell into chaos. Who was he protecting? Who else wanted Lillian dead? And why? But the final twist was the most chilling of all. Because deep in the evidence locker, hidden among the police reports and forensic files, there was something no one had noticed before. Lillian Monroe's last message, a voice recording, a desperate, terrified confession she had made the night before she died, a message she had tried to send, but never got the chance to. If you're hearing this, something happened to me. And if something happened to me, it wasn't an accident. It wasn't random. Please, don't let them get away with it. Please, tell my story. Lillian Monroe's story was never supposed to be told, but now the world would know. The world would see what they tried to hide, and the man she once loved would finally face the truth. Sheriff Michael Reeves sat motionless, his face unreadable, as the verdict was read. Guilty. The word echoed through the courtroom, through the town, through every person who had followed Lillian Monroe's tragic story. But was it enough? Was justice really served? He would spend years in prison, but he would still wake up every morning, still breathe, still exist. Lillian Monroe, on the other hand, would never get that chance. Her life was over before it ever truly began. Her mother sat in the front row of the courtroom, her hands clutched together, as if still holding on to the daughter she lost. She didn't weep loudly. No, her pain was quieter, deeper, like a wound that would never heal. "She called me that night," her mother whispered to reporters outside the courthouse. "She said she was scared. I told her to come home. I told her everything would be okay. But it wasn't. It wasn't okay. And now, my baby is gone." Lillian's best friend sat alone in a quiet cafe, the same one where Lillian had whispered those final words. "If anything happens to me, look at him." She stirred her coffee absent-mindedly, staring at the empty seat across from her, the seat where Lillian should have been. And then, with tears in her eyes, she whispered, "She was so happy once. She wanted love. She wanted a fairy tale. But fairy tales don't exist. Not for people like her." But perhaps the most haunting question of all, the one that lingers in the air, heavy and unshakable, is this. If she had stayed quiet, would she still be alive? And just how far will some people go to keep a secret buried forever? Before we dive into the final chilling moments of this case, if you've made it this far, that means you're truly invested in Lillian Monroe's story. And if you love deep, emotional, and shocking true crime stories that make you question everything, then you're in the right place. Here on the Untold Crime Chronicles, we uncover the darkest secrets behind real-life crimes, the stories that others are too afraid to tell. Every case we cover is deeply researched, emotionally gripping, and crafted to make sure the victim's story is never forgotten. So, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss our next case. It might just be even more twisted than this one. And before you go, drop a comment below. Do you think justice was truly served, or was this a cover-up from the start? If she had stayed quiet, would she still be alive? Your thoughts matter. Your comments, likes, and shares don't just help this channel grow. They help keep these victims' stories alive. Subscribe now, because the truth is always darker than fiction.